Packmates. We're here to talk to you about limited Dominaria United this week, and we're going to start this off by introducing ourselves. My name's Ryan. I'm your resident aggro expert. I like to find the aggro deck in the format, but we all draft kind of whatever when we can. We don't like to try to force decks, things like that. And my favorite thing about it is finding a nice archetype that's underperformed and under par. A lot of people abandon and making it to a top tier deck.
Hi, and I'm Robi, the resident Dirtle correspondent, and I like to go to game 3.
I'm Andrew. I'm the resident mid-range expert. I really like finding these kind of middle of the road kind of strategies. Not quite aggro, not quite control, but really being able to tempo out a game is kind of where I'm at. I like drafting underdrafted colors as well. And just reading the table, something I like about draft is it kind of evens the playing field for people. Sometimes you just get a really savage deck and just, someone can win with just little kind of skill in the game. Doesn't take a lot of money to get into this kind of thing. And so it's not just based on, buying the best cards.
All right, guys, we got a full weekend of Dominaria United for limited under our belts. What are your guys' thoughts?
I think that it's slow but not slow at the same time. Like there's lots of like crazy 2-drops that'll just kill you, like all the knights and the get to whatever it's called.
Yeah, I don't think that I'm ever that scared of that when I see it, really.
Go ahead.
You go.
I was going to say something I found in this set is just like the power level of all the kind of cards in here are quite a lot higher. It feels really good for a draft. Just kind of looking at the pre-release and some of the early drafts that we've had, there were like very different strategies that seemed sort of viable most of the time. The power level of the cards was just a lot stronger than I thought it would be. And you could see in our review before, there were a lot of 4s, a lot of 5s. There were a lot of cards that are making the cuts in your deck. And so it's a little bit harder to kind of find those. This is completely unplayable cards in this set, and so good job to Wizards for really making a well kind of balanced set here.
Yeah, it seems like damn near every card is playable.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're kind of bad, right?
Yeah, especially coming off the heels of like a Streets of New Capenna, where there were a couple color combinations there. I think we all kind of know the culprits there, which family allegiance had the best kind of cards in it. It really wasn't close.
To me, Streets of New Capenna felt like answer my 3-drop or lose a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And this doesn't feel quite like that.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like your deck matters a little bit more than your initial hand, which usually leads to a good format. All right, so we're gonna start off with our top 3 commons in each color. If we kind of agree on a card, we're not going to all say the card, but we're all going to give you our top 3s. We'll read them if it's the first time a card's introduced and give you just a little bit about what we like about it. So we're going to start off with white and me. My top 3 starts with Argivian Cavalier. This is my number 1 common. It's 2 and a white for a 2/2 creature with enlist. And whenever it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white soldier token. I think this is just solid in every deck. I think you just always want this card. It's 2 bodies in 1. It's a 3/3 worth of power on 2 bodies, which is oftentimes better than the 3/3, and it has enlist, which helps you enable attacks. Next, we have Take Up the Shield. These lifelink tricks are just so strong, and they're just starting to really shine the last 3 or 4 sets, I feel like. This one leaves a lasting counter, puts a 1/1 counter, gains lifelink and indestructible until end of turn. It's a 2-mana instant. So for 2 mana, you get indestructible, a counter, and lifelink, and that's just a ton of value because you're always going to trade up, you're going to gain some life, and that counter is going to stick around. So just a solid card, especially with removal being so prevalent in the format. It's just a good answer to removal and for good combats. And then lastly, I have Banalish Sleeper. This is a colorless and a white for a 3/1. Has kicker black, and when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, each player sacrifices a creature. I think the format's a little slower. A lot of times people won't have 2-drops, 3-drops into 4-drops. Like they'll definitely have 4-drops, right? But if you can kick this and get their 4-drop for a 1/1 token, it's amazing, obviously, against those slower decks. And that's my top 3.
All right, and my top 3 starts off with obviously Argivian Cavalier, which is amazing. And then I have Destroy Evil, which is the modal destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater, or destroy target enchantment. I've found that this card's pretty good, especially against like all the like crazy domain decks where they're making like 10/10s and dumb stuff like that. I've also had quite a bit of luck, like blowing out people who are using tricks with Destroy Evil. I'm kind of a fan of it. It's got a lot of flexibility. And then my third card is Citizen's Arrest, which I was super low on at first, but it's pretty necessary to stop some of the big threats.
All right, for my top 3 white commons, my first one is, of course, a Graving Cavalier. I mean, this guy just does everything that you could really want. It's easily splashable. It comes with an extra body. It has the enlist mechanic, so it's going to be trading up when it's in combat, and it really puts a lot of pressure on them, especially coming in with that extra body. My next card up is Citizen's Arrest. You know, I was kind of low mid on this. I thought it was quite good removal, and it's turned out to be pretty good. There's so many bigger creatures that just get out of these burn ranges, and sometimes you just really need just a hard removal spell to kind of push through that. And my next card is actually Take Up the Shield. I find that this combat trick has just been really good. I had it in a draft earlier this week, and I found it to be that +1/+1 counter was very good. The Indestructible was very good, and even the Life Link was good to put those early, those kind of aggro matches, and it really breaks the mirror in that. And so I found it to be good, and I think that combat tricks are kind of on the rise in this set.
So, Robi, you're the only one with Destroy Evil. I don't think it's that good. Why should I be playing it?
It kills big stuff and the walls. Academy Wall, and it doesn't even kill the good walls, but it kills Coral Colony, which is pretty good. I've definitely had my Coral Colony sniped by Destroy Evils.
So I should play Destroy Evils in case they're running Coral Colony?
How else are you going to beat it, Ryan?
I like to turn my shit sideways, boy.
Colony.
Oh, we'll figure out a way. We'll get through
The
there.
Citizens Arrest it, or Take Out the Shield.
Which I kill with Destroy Evil, right?
I mean, that's
sick.
fine.
It's
If
a
you're
good
getting
card.
your wall back. I just think I think Destroy Evil's dead against the decks you kind of need it most against, I feel like.
What decks do you need it most against?
The aggro decks, right?
It's not
When
like
you're-
an anti-aggro card.
Yeah, but it's like for dirtily decks only. No aggro. Well, maybe. I don't know. Are aggro decks
let's
playing
say-
Destroy Evil?
I don't think so. Maybe. Like, that would make more sense that an aggro deck would play it. Because whenever you have, like, small creatures, you want big removal, right? And this is
Yeah.
big removal.
When you're
Maybe.
laying out your deck for your draft deck, are you putting Citizen's Arrest in your top 10 of that, or are you putting Destroy Evil there? Like, what makes the first, it's auto include? What's the auto include there? The Citizen's Arrest or the Destroy Evil?
It depends on the deck. Like, if I have more red cards than I do white cards, or more green cards than I do white cards, and I don't think I'll reliably be able to turn on the double white, I'd probably just go Destroy Evil, low-key.
See, I think Citizen's Arrest is a little bit overhyped because to me, white is a splash color. To me, we're only playing white when we're splashing it in an ideal world. Because all of the good white stuff is single pip. You got the uncommon enchantment that has flash, that does the same thing as Citizen Arrest. You have the Argivian Cavalier, you have the Knights, you have all kinds of white stuff, but all the best white stuff is splashable, and Citizen Arrest really isn't. So that's why it's not on my top 3.
That makes sense.
All right. Next up, we have Robi with blue.
Yep. So my top 3 blue commons, obviously number 1 is going to be Essence Scatter, because it's the best blue removal spell. Blue's kind of hard up for 2-drops in this set. You have basically this Essence Scatter, or you have like the 2-drop guy, the 2/1, that can't be blocked if you play an instant or sorcery.
Haunting Figment?
Haunting Figment for like the red-blue decks. And I think Essence Scatter is way better, because it just stops way more things. It stops the 5/3 for 2.
Doing a little foreshadowing, huh?
Yep. The best green uncommon. And then the next card I have is Tolarian Terror, which is just sick. And all these Dimir. And even, I think even in like the Izzet and blue-white decks, where you just have a massive pile of spells, this guy gets real cheap. And then my third top blue common, this one's going to be contentious. I have Academy Wall, because it's fucking the truth. And no, it's absolutely amazing. It makes your Tolarian Terror is way cheaper by pitching spells. Fixes all your lands, blocks literally everything. It's amazing.
Why are we pitching spells? I thought we put spells in our deck to cast them.
Yeah, and to pitch them. Yeah, you put spells in your deck to cast them in Izzet. But in Dimir, you put spells in your deck to make your Tolarian Terror is way cheaper.
See, I feel like you've just paired these two together in a deck, and they really only
it's
work
sick.
together. I don't think they work in every deck here. You know, you gotta have, it's a very specific instant and sorcery
in
deck that
blue-white.
you're building there.
It's decent in blue-white too, right?
How many instant and sorceries do you need to make sure to run Academy Wall? Like, what's the threshold of that?
Probably like 8.
It's a lot.
Yeah, you are just like running an O5 wall. That's not good, right? Like it's fetchable. Academy wall is fetchable too, right? With one of our best commons of the set.
I feel like if I'm fetching Academy wall, then I'm not putting that card in my deck.
Yeah, I don't know. It's still good though. Like you're putting a shit ton of stats on the board with the other card. I'm not even talking about.
Yeah.
Academy wall is sick.
I'm with Andrew. I think you're kind of leaning towards a certain archetype with these blue cards. They're not necessarily best in a vacuum.
Yeah, I think Tolarian Terror is one of those cards. I tried it a little bit, and that cost. It's just you have to have all those instants and sorceries to play before it, and I just don't think you live in Magical Christmas Land enough to just get that on turn 4 for like 2. Yeah,
you aren't playing this on turn 4. This is your win con.
Yeah, I do like the ward on it though. I've gotten got by that ward just forgetting that it had some sort of evasion there, which is pretty nice, but I just don't see Academy Wall. I just don't see the thrill of that.
It's good.
All right, next up, I've got my top 3 blue commons, starting off with Essence Scatter. Yeah, Robi said it right. I mean, this is the premier removal spell of blue in that common slot. Something that's been kind of missing, and it's just, I'll address it maybe later, but blue is really hard up for removal in this set. Like, actual get rid of a creature or put them on the side that they've normally had. We've gotten some new mechanics done. My second card is actually Phyrexian Espionage. I found this card to be pretty essential in my sealed builds. It was nice to have that just extra card draw to kind of get through that mid game, or try to get you to the mid game actually, and then at the late game, that kicker getting a 3-for-1 on this card was pretty good, and I was actually starting to chain a couple of them when I had them in my deck, to which my opponent had 0 cards and I was up 4 cards, and that was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm way up on Phyrexian Espionage.
I think in sealed, because he said in sealed, like it's way better there.
Yeah,
like you're really paying like 5 mana to kick it ever.
3-for-1 card advantage is pretty good.
I mean, if you top deck it, you're doing it, especially if they only have 1 or 2 cards in their hand, it hurts. So a lot of times, I've been stung by it a few times where I'm saving combat trick or something, but I've just tapped out and I can't play it, and they just hit my removal because I didn't need it at the time.
I'm just like, I don't know. It's kind of just slow to me a little bit. Like, I don't like tapping out for 3 mana. Like, if you're tapping out to play this and you can't keep up like your essence scatters or whatever, like that just kind of feels kind of bad to me.
It's scalable too in that mid game when you have 5 mana, or when you're into that 5/6. I mean, just getting there, you get
what
that
turn
choice.
do you think is like ideal to cast this? Like 7, 8, 9?
I think the format's slow enough that you can cast it on 3 and not get punished too bad, honestly, sometimes.
I don't know about that. Like, what if they play a knight against you?
Well, then you're not playing this on 3. Like, you'll play something else, but...
Are you ever sad to top deck this, like, late game?
Yeah, but that's, like, the only time I want to see it.
Yeah, it's not all about top decking stuff late game.
I'm sad. Yeah. I'm sad, like, seeing this in my opening hand. Because I could have, like, an Essence Scatter or something else, I think, that would actually affect the board state more.
I think it's super good, but there's definitely, like, a limit on how many of these you want to put in, unless you're in the super Demir's control deck, but...
Yeah.
I'm high on it.
And my last card is Tolarian Geyser. And wow, this card is just overperformed. Even with that kicker, the just incidental 3 life, I've splashed for that white just to get that extra 3 life, and I thought it was strong. It really shores up that aggro matchup for you once you get that 3 life, and just putting it back, you get up the card. Very strong card. Just keep drafting these. They're great.
I agree with them on the Tolarian Geyser. Busted. 3 life, sign me up.
I super agree with him because that's my number 1 blue common, Tolarian Geyser. It's undervalued. It's super good. Bounce them and draw a card. Then next up, I have Essence Scatter at 2. I think those two kind of go hand in hand. If you have enough Tolarian Geysers in your deck, you're not too worried about missing the Essence Scatter on their big guy. So you can always bounce it and hit it later. And then last up, I have Talus Lookout. This is the 4 mana, 2 colors, 2 blue, 3/2 flyer that when it dies, you look at the top 2 cards of your library and put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. This card is just good card advantage because they have to deal with it because of the fact that it's a flyer. And then you just get a refund after you hit them about for 6 or 9 in the grill, and they finally decide to kill it. You get a card back. I think it's super good.
Yeah. So what's the shittiest creature that you guys have cast Tolarian Geyser on? Let's start with Andrew. Andrew, what's the worst creature you've cast Tolarian Geyser on?
The worst creature I've casted on is it's a Phyrexian Rager.
That's pretty bad. Yeah, that's a terrible one.
It was to win. It was to win in my defense.
That's the only time you could do that.
Yeah.
I've casted on some 1/1 soldier tokens.
Yeah,
me sometimes
too.
you just need the life.
I mean, that's a straight up removal spell at that point.
Mine was to seal the game as well on the 1/1 soldier. Like, I'm only bouncing your soldier if it's staying in the game.
I've done it not to win the game. Just 'cause sometimes you just need another card, right? Like, it's not that bad.
Just to note, I paid the kicker on that too, just for the extra rub-ins.
Yeah, that's important. Wow. That's very important.
It is very important. The rub-ins are very important.
For sure. And then you send them the oops on Arena. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I always order blockers even when I'm about to win, for sure.
Oh, man. All right, next up we have my black top 3 commons. I'll start off with Extinguish the Light. 2 double black, destroy target creature or planeswalker, and if the mana value of that creature is 3 or less, you gain 3 life. I can't tell you how many times I gained 3 life with this thing. There are so many aggressive 3 mana value creatures in this set, and so this one just really gets you to the mid game. Again, really not splashable per se because of that double casting cost, and we saw that with Citizen's Arrest too. They've really balanced that out to make sure that these hard removal spells are in double colors, so they really kind of force you to stick within those color pies there that they're looking for. The next one up is Phyrexian Rager. Old school, draws you a card, lose a life, just the kind of creatures that you want to smooth out those games and those draws. You know, I was playing an opponent, and the opponent kept a 2-land hand with a Phyrexian Rager, you know, after mulliganing, and just like, that's good enough. You know, you hit that 3rd land and you just know you're going to go for it. I found that to be pretty strong. And then my last common is Urborg Repossession. The 1 black with kicker, 1 colorless, 1 green to return target creature from your graveyard. You gain 2 life. If the spell is kicked, return another target permanent from your graveyard to your hand. That permanent is very essential. I've returned the Saga at one point. This card has just been absolute gas. And something to note in this set is the lack of graveyard removal.
None. Literal 0.
Yeah, Urborg Repossession is nuts in the Dominion decks. This is absolutely bonkers. All right, next up is my black top 3. I have Extinguish the Light first, same as Andrew. I have Urborg Repossession second. I think I'm taking it a lot of the time, especially when I can pay the kicker. I'm pretty much only putting it in my deck when I can pay the kicker, though. That's the only reason it's second. If I can pay the kicker, I'm taking it over Extinguish. At least my first copy. And then last, I have Tribute to Urborg. I think this card is super good. It's the 2 mana instant colors in a black with kicker colors in a blue. For negative, target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn, and if it was kicked, they get an additional -1/-1 until end of turn for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. Tribute's just been super good for me. It kills a lot of the stuff that you need to kill, or at least lets you trade with it in combat. I think it's just solid removal.
All right, for my top 3, I have Phyrexian Rager. Obviously, it's the OG Inspiring Overseer. It's sick. Extinguish the Light, good removal. And then my spicy final top 3 black common, I have the Necromass. The 6 in a black costs 1 less for each creature card in your graveyard. I've had good luck with this guy. I thought at first that would be terrible because, like, why would you ever want Death Touch on a 5/5? But this thing's kind of fucking annoying to block. Like, have you ever had to block this thing? It's scary. It's just like a good, bad win condition if you're hard up for one. So I've gone up quite a bit on him.
I think I've had to go up against it once, and I was so relieved when they tapped 5 mana and played a Writhing Necromass, and I just won the next turn.
It's good. It's a good card.
Yeah, I've had to cast this guy at 6 more often than not, and it just did not feel good even at 6. The Death Touch was always kind of funky. I've had good luck with it too, Robi. I may have had a match against you with this card.
Did you?
Yeah,
you beat me with this.
I did beat you.
Yeah, it's good.
It was good.
Good when they don't remove it, right?
Yeah.
If they don't remove it, it's just so hard to deal with.
It's very hard to deal with, and something that it does do pretty well is get past some of these creatures that have that 6 toughness, which is really nice. You know, normally people kind of wall up behind those things, and so this does a really good job of getting around it, and you get some 2-for-1s with it when they eventually have to gang block it to try to kill it. So it's really good. Yeah,
it's a nombo with Urborg's Repossession.
Yes. Something on Urborg's Repossession too. I found that 2 life removal is actually pretty. Yeah, it really matters in this set, and something that you see in some of our black cards that we picked here. That gaining life is really going to start shutting out these aggro decks as time kind of goes on. I think we're going to see that incidental 2 life is just erasing those first couple turns for those aggro decks, or that 3 life.
From Geyser.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, we have our red top 3, and I'm starting off with Lightning Strike. Obviously, super good. 3 damage to any target for 2 mana. Colorless in a red is just good. Solid removal. It can go face. Does all the stuff you want to do in red. Next up, I have Keldon Strike Team. This is 2 colorless in red for a 3/1 creature as kicker, 1 and a white. And when it enters the battlefield, if it was kick, create 2 1/1 white soldier tokens. As long as Keldon Strike Team entered the battlefield this turn, creatures you control have haste. This is super good for enlisting your dudes late game too. Even if you don't have profitable attacks, you can play this with haste and then enlist your 3/4 or your 1/3, and that's what's used a lot. Or it just finishes. It's super good. I will say I rarely want to play this on 3 because if you do, it's often going to get 3 damage in and then be blocked. But on 5, it's extremely good. And then last up, I have Flowstone Infusion. This is the 1 mana instant. Target creature gets +2/-2. To me, this feels like it kills most of the stuff you want to kill. It kills a lot of the stuff you want to kill. Obviously, it doesn't kill the huge green dudes, but the fact that you can also use this on the offense sometimes is insane. Flowstone Infusion, super good.
All right, for my top 3 red comments, I have Lightning Strike as number 1, pretty obvious. Number 2, I have Flowstone Infusion, which is basically just shock. I've gotten way up on this card because of Micromancer. Like, if you get a Micromancer and you can fetch this, it's so insane. Like, I've had blowouts of, like, drawing my Micromancer on 5, playing a Flowstone Infusion. It's stupid. Way up on it. And then next up, I have Coalition Warbrute, which I think is, like, one of the scariest cards I've seen so far in this format. The fact that it has Trample is disgusting. Like, I've gotten beat by this card quite a few times. Scary.
Yeah, I think it's... sorry. I think Coalition's good. It's tabled a lot now, too, so you can definitely get in on it pretty easy, pretty late. And it just turns all of your dudes into damage, which is hard to do in the aggro decks or the mid-range decks. You can, tap a 3/1 and make this guy a 6/4, and it's just going to get damage in. So I'm high on that card as well.
Yeah, I find it pretty good that it is going quite late. We've had a couple of drafts now, and I've seen that guy in the last 9 of some of these packs. I mean, no respect for this guy, but this guy puts in a lot of work, and I'm kind of afraid when I see him get plopped down there. He has that 4 toughness that is sometimes just a little bit tougher to deal with, those 4 toughness guys and the 3 toughness guys in this set. And that trample really makes him a real threat. For my top 3 commons, I have, of course, Lightning Strike first. That is just no surprise there. That is easily by far one of the best commons in the set, I think. And then 2, I've Keldon Strike Team as well, Ryan. I thought that was one of the scariest top decks to play against because it's just that 5 coming at you right away, or the chance to enlist that guy right away is really strong. And my last one is Goblin Picker. I found this guy to be pretty strong in those Grixis style control decks. He's a reasonable beater at first, which is good, and then in the late game you get to start cycling through your deck a little bit with the discard draw card. We found that blood tokens were quite good in the last couple sets that they were around. You're never not happy to have extra blood tokens lying around, and so this kind of that blood token guy. Something I like about this guy as well is that he helps smooth out some of the draws. I kept a bunch of 2-landers with this guy in him.
Oh yeah, about Goblin Picker because it's terrible.
Fuck yeah.
Wow! Oh my god! All right, well,
it's not terrible, but it's not a top 3 red common. It's not even close. It's like a bottom 4 red common.
Bottom 4.
Ryan won't say it. I'll say it. It's terrible. It is terrible. It is terrible.
Since when is a blood token every turn bad?
You have to discard a card. You have to discard first, right?
Yeah.
So it's like objectively worse than the wall, Academy Wall. If I can't have Academy Wall, you sure as fuck can't have Goblin Picker.
I would rather be looting with my Academy Wall.
Well, yeah, like you're just doing that.
How many sorceries are you realistically, or instants or sorceries are you really going to have on that? And how reliably are you going to be able to trip that account? How reliably?
What is more of a cost? Doing something that you're already doing anyways in that deck, which is casting instants and sorceries, or paying mana and tapping your 2/2?
How good is keeping a 2-land hand with this guy in it?
Bad, because it has Goblin Picker in it.
So you're like ideal hand is
Has Goblin Picker
has
on
Goblin
it?
Picker? Yeah, like
Like-
you're gonna keep a 2-land hand so you can tap down your 2-drop and hope you hit the 3rd.
It's a little less
Like-
than ideal, but this guy, like, he did a lot of work for me. I can't go back on my boy. He
Another
really saved
way,
me in a lot of those
Impulse.
fields. Huh?
Would Impulse not have done like a better job of that than Goblin Picker?
If I was in blue, yeah.
Yeah.
when you're not in blue, like,
But like you're not trying to really do that in red.
I feel
don't
like
know.
card
I hate
selectivity
that.
gets up like as you kind of go on. You know, obviously it's bad when you have to make the tough choices.
Goblin Picker is one where I'm like, oh, I don't have enough 2-drops. I guess I'll throw a fucking Goblin Picker in my deck.
Yeah. Something I did see though that really did help me out in real talk is there's so many when you're splashing so many different colors, sometimes your mana just doesn't work out for you and you get stuck with these double costed cards in your hand. And something the Goblin Picker was really good about was just getting those out of there and trying to get some gas going.
Doesn't Academy Wall do that better?
Yeah, but if you can't cast the spells that you're doing, what does it do?
Yeah, but like what does Goblin Picker do if you're like low on if you mold a 5, right?
You
Like-
sculpt a better hand.
Like,
I literally can't envision a deck or scenario where I would ever take Goblin Picker over Flowstone Infusion.
yeah, I mean,
Oh well, yeah, I don't know. He was good in my Grixis. He was good in Grixis. He was good in the like a rule splashing black. I think it was like a Jund deck. He was
that's like
pretty
the
decent
only
at that.
place I could ever see you like actually wanting him.
The great
If you're like
animation
pitching stuff to
stuff.
get stuff back, but like even then, he seems like the worst way to do that.
Yeah, I
just
guess
got-
in Grixis you could put creatures in the yard too to get the Necromass early, or spells to get the Serpent early. Maybe.
he just starts fueling
So
things
what-
at a
what-
pretty cheap cost.
What makes him good in that deck?
I think it was just mainly because he filled a role in that deck. You know, just
Is it Urborg? Is it Urborg's repossession that made him kind of good?
I liked him with that
Because
you know,
that's the
little-
sorcery that trips your fucking Academy Wall. like,
No, I
like
believe it was the 6. I think it was the 6 cost creature that regrew something. But I mean, both of those spells are good, and I think there's some merit for the other one. But I feel like Goblin Picker is making my deck more than the Wall will, just because he doesn't have the activation cost of having to have a critical mass of sorcery as an instance in your deck. This guy just works.
Yeah,
You know,
he's
if you
probably
get
making.
flooded,
Yeah, I
so if
agree.
you have like two
You're drawing
Urborg's
more
repossessions though.
Yeah. How many cards on average are you drawing with the Wall versus this guy? Like you can
A lot of times I choose not to.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, but like like
Yeah.
probably like 6 or 7
Yeah.
in,
This guy
in
was
like a full game.
yeah.
It's
and
like
the more-
super easy to get 2 walls going too. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy.
which it gets real dumb. Yeah,
Wow, that's in multiples at that point, right? Just like 1-for-1 carding here, you know.
You're
But
getting,
even then,
you're getting Academy Walls later than you're probably getting Goblin Pickers. I think.
I don't know if you guys seem to not like Goblin Picker that much.
I
I'm
hate
probably
it.
getting a much
I
later.
hate it.
Yeah, see.
I mean,
Then he's-
it's a fine
You can
curve filler.
play it.
That's
Mhm.
it. I mean, it's a fine curve filler.
I
I
beat
just
down with this guy too. I beat down for like 6-8 damage with this dude just because he was a 2-drop and people were playing a bit slower, and then they don't want to waste a removal spell on this guy. And then in the late game they just lost when I started discarding lands and started getting business spells.
I mean, on the play, if he gets 6 to 8 damage in, that's absurd.
It was pretty good. Well, you know, it's backed by like me playing other spells around him too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I don't want to say he's just getting it. Obviously, he's not. He's a
Yeah.
2/2 with no, with no
Right,
evasion.
yeah.
But
Um,
he was as good
how
as
how
Fred
often
around
are
him.
you looting with him realistically? Like once or twice a game?
no, I looted with him quite a bit. When in a game that I played where I actually did get color screwed is what happened. I didn't draw the black in the deck, and I drew the green and the red, and I was just digging for that swamp the entire time. And so I was pitching double black cards that I just could not play, even in a reasonable amount of time. It took 2 lands to get there. It's just something happens. Sometimes it happens. You get color screwed in a deck, and this guy really drew me out of it. You know, there
Would you
were
ever
spells
take this over one of the common lands?
Absolutely not. if you're
no,
asking me.
no, of course not.
No,
No. This guy. I mean, there's a reason why he's at the bottom of my list of the top 3, and I think he's really situational. But I gotta give the hat not to him for just pulling me out of games that I didn't think I was able to win.
I
Just-
think I'm
yeah.
barely taking Lightning Strike over the. I'm taking Lightning Strike over the common lands.
no, we can get to that. All All right.
All right.
All right, next up we have the my top three green comments. The first one I have is the Prodigy, the Vine Shaper Prodigy, one in a green for Organ Hoarder. It's got the kicker, one in a blue. You look at the top three, put one in your hand and two on the bottom. It's just been pretty good. Sometimes you play him on two if you're really hard up for two drops, but he shines up for.
You never want to play him at 2, right?
You can
Ever.
though. Like I have played him on two.
I have
Like if
played him
your
at
opponent
2.
goes 2-drop on 2,
Yeah.
like Goblin Picker on 2,
Yeah.
I might just play my Vine Shaper Prodigy out.
Yeah, I've definitely played him on 2. It's a very situational thing, but I like the flexibility that he has. It's a pretty good pickup for your top one there.
My second green common is Gaia's Might. It's the 1-mana green spell, the combat trick that gives something +5/+5. Gross. I've had this card do work against me. This card's scary. It's a constant threat.
Talk about a spell for Micromancer to grab.
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's
That's
so
the scariest
sick.
thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Micromancer
like,
grabbing Gaia's Might. I'm like, well, this is gonna
well,
be
you're
rough,
at
kid.
5 domain right now. I'm taking 5.
Do you ever take that card outside of a domain deck?
I mean, I think you're
I
splashing
think you can.
3 to 4 colors very often. Like, if you're in a traditional 2-color deck, then you're obviously not really playing it, but
Yeah.
that doesn't exist a lot in this format, especially in green.
I think there's like a domain deck, like a red-green domain deck, that's like just basically red-green, but they just have the lands.
Mhm.
And I think that's where you like, this card's the scariest, right? If you're
That
like
was actually-
base red-green.
Yeah, that was actually my latest trophy deck. It was red, green, splash white, but domain fully on.
You use this and
Yeah.
the Outrider, and you just have domain because you take some of the lands.
Yeah,
Yep.
just for kickers and
Yep.
just occasional random splashes. But yeah, it was
like
mostly
base
red, green, splash white with like 1 or 2 off-color kickers and all the lands.
Yep, good. And my last one is Scout the Wilderness. The fact that this makes like 2 soldier tokens seemed pretty relevant when I played it. Like, gives you the blockers that you need when you're dirtling and playing 5-mana ramp spells. You know, I've been a fan of this card.
All right, next up, I have my top 3 green commons. My first one is Bite Down. A solid removal spell in green. You know, we see fight spells, we see bite spells, and this is kind of in that ilk of that. It's been pretty good with a couple of death touchers or just getting some of your bigger late game guys to just bite down some of the little guys that are getting in their way. My next one is actually, Magna Go. How the heck do you say that word?
Magnagoth?
Magnagoth.
Maybe?
Magnagoth Sentry. My next one is Magnagoth Sentry. It's the 3 colorless, 1 forest, 1 green for a 4/4 reach tree folk. And this guy has just been solid. You know, I've had to remove him quite a bit of times. That reach is actually kind of relevant in a format where you see a bunch of two powered flyers with not a lot of toughness. This guy really just gums up the ground. Or he just beats down if you got him on the curve. And then my last one up is Vine Shaper Prodigy. I put it kind of last because it really has to be, you really want to pair this with that blue or have that splash of blue. Outside of that, obviously it's just your basic grizzly bear. But once you get to that Organ Hoarder territory there, I think it really starts to shine. You know, getting 3 cards deep in your deck is very good. I kind of miss not putting cards in the graveyard a little bit, but I think that's a good trade-off for this guy.
Yeah, I'm quite a bit up on Magnagoth Sentry. Not for like ever attacking with it.
Mhm.
I just die all the time to people using this to enlist the 3/4.
Mm-hmm.
The red 3/4 with trample, like that's
Yeah.
fucking horrifying.
Yeah.
You know what I've started using to enlist that too? The little 2/3 menace guy that you can give +1/-1.
Oh, the
Yeah,
flow stuff.
that's
Pump him
super
up to
cool.
4/1 and then enlist him. It's been
that's
kind of
pretty good.
sick.
Magnagoth Sentry is like the prime thing because like then they have to first they have to trade with your 7/4, then they have to deal with your 4/4. It's just so backbreaking.
Yeah, it's really strong. It's good on curve. It's a good just at the end of your curving out, just to have that guy there is really strong.
All right. For my green top 3, I have Gaia's Might number 1, which I'm pretty surprised Andrew doesn't have at this point. It's just super solid. I think it might be the highest win rate green common. It's absurd. Second, I have Vine Shaper Prodigy. I'm along the same philosophy as Andrew there. You only really want it if you can pay the kicker, which oftentimes when you're in green, you're going to be able to pay the kicker though.
Yeah.
And then Third, I have Sunbathing Rootwalla. This guy can be real scary in the green domain decks, which is, I'd say, probably 4 out of 5 decks that you can play with green are the green domain decks. Maybe not green-white if you're, trying to go wide, but Rootwalla is just a super solid 2-drop that just gets in for 2 for free all the time because no one can block it because they don't want to trade for nothing.
It's good. I like Root Wall quite a bit too.
Yeah, I've been kind of impressed by it. I really kind of, even just for it being a base 2/2, once you get to that 4 mana, you really start playing the head games with them of, are you going to pump it? Are you not going to pump it? And then it gets kind of out of hand once you get to that once you get full domain, obviously this guy becomes a true blue threat. Activating only once per turn is a little kind of whatever when you're in the lighter domain side of things with only 2. Just making it a 4/4 is probably not as good for 4.
Yeah, but it's pretty easy to get domain, right? Like
I think even if you're at 3, which I think you're going to be in any green deck, you're going to be at 3 because you're going to want to play Vine Shaper and you're going to want to play some of the red stuff.
Yeah. I feel like the threshold for all these domain cards is you have to have at least access to 3 basic land types to just get anywhere with those domain cards, and then the ceiling goes up.
Though.
It is, but it's something to note. You really, if you're going to play domain, I mean, really, you can't do it in a solid 2-color deck. You've got to be splashing. Or you got to have lands to have the splash in this set. That's something to really note.
Yep.
All right. Sure. So for my total top 3 overall commons of Dominaria United, I have first up Lightning Strike. I fear this card every time I play any of my creatures that have 3 toughness and they have a red and a colorless or any color mana up. I just know that when you play it out there, you got to risk that that's just going to be a possibility. My number 2 is Phyrexian Rager. It's solid. It just goes into every deck that has a swamp into it. This is the kind of card we're always happy to have it as part of your 23, 24, 25 if you're super aggro. And my last one up is Haunted Mire, but really it's the common land cycle. I think those cards are it's where you want to be in this set. You really need, like we were talking about earlier, to have that, you got to reach that domain threshold in this deck. And there's so many off-color kickers that really turn these creatures on, like Vine Shaper. You really want that blue in there. And so this gives you access to that. And so that's my top 3 right there.
I thought you had a black common higher than Phyrexian Rager. Didn't you have Extinguish higher than Phyrexian Rager?
I did, but I think overall, these are kind of like where you want to be, though, with a Phyrexian Rager. Look at the cards I picked kind of splash into other things.
Okay, that makes sense. So are you taking Haunted Mire over 95% of commons then? Like the dual lands, basically?
I think so. I think it's just for better consistency of deck and to be able to play your kind of rares and mythics that go up into that kind of stratosphere, or to play those off-color kickers. I found that to be just something that I've been wanting to do more and more, is to have access to that.
That's interesting. I'm super high on them, but I think there's probably 8 to 10 commons that I would take over most of the time. So I'm trying to get them around pick 6 or so, 5, 6. But yeah, I'm pretty high on them too. All right, next up is my total top 3. Number 1, I have Urborg Repossession. This is one that just really shines when you're in its deck. It's solid, but you don't need a super lot of copies of it. You need 1, maybe 2, but it's super solid. Number 2 is Gaia's Might. It's just a blowout waiting to happen for 1 mana. People are scared of it. They're going to play around it. You just get free stuff in. It's amazing. And then last I have Shieldwall Sentinel. Obviously, you need your deck tailored a certain way for this card to be good, but we didn't really have a colorless slot to put this guy in.
Somebody's talking about
it had to be mentioned. He's just insane. You just Shieldwall Sentinel into Shieldwall Sentinel into Shieldwall Sentinel into the guy that makes birds. And it's free. You can get these super late when it's available. This is a good sign to move into the Defender's deck if you're seeing them around pick 6, 7, and you just move in and do it, and you just win with it.
Yeah, this is the highest win rate common in this set so far on 17 lands, which is crazy to me. But yep, next up,
because it's super good.
Yeah, it's amazing. You don't need much to make this card good. You don't need like 2 or 3 of them. Just like this, and like if you're in like a Spells Matter deck, you can really tailor like how you want your Defender's package to act whenever you have this guy, right?
Yeah.
But you're not playing him outside of the Defender's deck, correct? This is just only for Defenders, right?
I think you are playing this outside of Defender's decks. Like, you're not playing this outside of control decks that play 4 mana 1/3s, right? But like, you don't have to be a hardcore Defender deck to want this, I don't think. Like, just the fact that you're getting, it's like fucking what's that? It's like basically a bad Squadron Hawk. Like, it just gets you card advantage you can pick the right wall that you have for your, like, all you need is like one of each wall or like ones that would really complement your deck, and you can just go find them. Pretty good. I've been way up on this card actually.
Yeah, it's good. It's real good.
What's the threshold of number of defenders you need to play this card?
3.
Other than itself?
Well, no, this plus 2.
This plus
Yeah.
2?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And they can all be shield wall sentinels.
I'm not that high on that.
I mean, it would be ideal to go shield wall sentinel, search for the other one, then search for like any payoff. But most likely the blight or the guy that makes birds.
How skewed is this by not having a bird guy? If the bird guy didn't exist, how high would this be?
Still pretty high. Coral Colony's really good too. It's a good win con, genuinely.
So is Blight Pile, and so honestly, the little 1 mana guy that gives them haste and lets them swing with the 05 walls. I did like 13 damage in 1 turn because of that. I turned 2 05 walls into attackers and the 03 for 1 that makes them deal damage even with their toughness.
Yeah,
I just did 13
the
face.
Walking bulwark.
Like from the hand, like you didn't even see it coming. It was disgusting.
You have like 3 different win cons that you can search up with this.
4.
Right?
You have 4.
4? What?
You have the white one, you have the black one, you have the mill, and you have the 03.
The white one, black one. Yeah.
The artifact uncommon.
Yeah.
You have 4.
Like you don't need much, genuinely. Like it's just got so many tools and so many uses. You can even go get like I've even gotten the white guy with us too, like the one that the tapper one that taps on creatures. Like it's so flexible.
I've gotten the 05 wall with this several times too, just because I needed a 05 blocker. Like it's good. It's just good.
I'm way up on it. All right, for my top 3, I've got the best Dimir card in the set, Radiant Grove, which is specifically really good in the Dimir decks. Like I'm always looking for at least like 2 to 3 Radiant Groves in every single Dimir deck I have, because it turns on the kickers for your Urborg repossession and the kicker for your bounce spell. So I'm super high on specifically Radiant Grove because it just kills 2 birds with 1 stone. And then my second one, I just have all lands here because I think they're good. The grotto, I've been super impressed with this. The scry is super real. I'm way up on it. And
I've been jamming the grotto in my aggro decks, and it's insane. My 2-color focused aggro decks, I can just scry it 1. It's basically free. Yeah.
You pay a little extra tax, but turning on all your kickers is good.
Yeah, and when I'm like basically straight 2 colors with kickers, it's just so good to have that scry and that extra tax at late game for the kickers.
It's not too much of a cost to put this in your deck. Like it makes splashing a lot easier, I think. And they go ridiculously late.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting that it's just a common land that's good in aggro decks. We haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah. And then the next one I have is Idyllic Beachfront, which I think you really want. Specifically in Golgari decks to turn on your what am I thinking of? The freaking
the vine shaper
Vine Shaper, and the one, what's the other one? The 2-drop spell that gives something minus whatever.
Oh yeah, the Urborg repossession.
Well, not that, the 2-drop one.
Oh yeah, it's God, I can't think of the name.
The common,
I put it on my list. It's Tribute to Urborg.
Yeah.
So you're willing to splash off-color dual lands into your deck that are
for kickers,
for kicker only.
Yeah, you don't think so?
I don't know. I find it really tough just to put a colorless land in my deck that comes into play tap.
That gets you value?
It gets you value later on. I mean, it's really only good in control decks at that point. You're not splashing a Radiant Grove in your aggro deck, right? Like if you're off-color aggro deck. Yeah, so these are all kind of...
I would put Radiant Grove in my aggro decks. And like the green aggro decks, like the green-red aggro decks,
No, I'm talking like how you were saying you put it in a Grixis deck and this has no Grixis colors in it. Like would you have a Grixis aggro deck and play a Radiant Grove in it? Or let's say a Rakdos, because you really
no, that's like mainly just for control.
Okay.
But
control domain dirtle shit. Yeah.
Okay. Keep it on brand.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, next up we have our uncommon top 3s. This is a card that I was just super wrong about when we did the limited set review. I have it right now as my number 1 common if you can play it. It's Urg, Spawn of Turg. He's double black and a green for a star 5. Legendary creature. His power is equal to the number of land cards in your graveyard. And at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard. You can pay a black and a green to sack a land and gain 2 life. So he can pump himself. He's super good late game. He's super good early game. I had a game where I played this turn 3 and the other guy had, Boros aggro, and I like turn 6 or 7 when I started to come online with all of my domain stuff, I was at 19 life still. It's just insane. It's just insane, and there's no way that they can get by it profitably without tricks or without removal, and it's pretty hard to kill because it has 5 toughness.
05, yeah. I like
Next up, we have Nishoba Brawler. This is a colorless and a green for a star 3. It has trample, and it has domain. Its power is equal to the number of basic land types among lands you control. This card is almost always at least a 3/3 for 2 with trample, which is insane, and it's pretty easily a 4/3 or a 5/3. Maybe not right when you play it, but it gets there. It's just when you see this card, you feel like you're probably in for some damage in the next few turns for sure. And then last, I have Elias Ilkor, Sadistic Pilgrim. This is the 1 white and 1 black 2/2 with Death Touch. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life, and whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. This card is just super solid. You play it early, it gains you the life. You play it late, it finishes games. It just does everything you need to do. It trades with something for sure because it has Death Touch. Most oftentimes it's going to draw removal, any removal, and it's a 2-drop. That just demands an answer. It's super good.
Yeah, I really like these picks. I think that Spawn of Turg has just been, it's such an aggressively costed creature, even as a 05, being able to get into the late game, just kind of surveilling, I guess, is that kind of ability, looking at the top card and then deciding whether to put into your graveyard or not. It seems really good, especially in a format where you see like the other 2 creatures that you put in your uncommon are very aggressive type creatures. And so I think that one's just so aggressively costed, and with the highest toughness there, or with that high 5 toughness in the Shoba Brawler. My goodness. That guy's like the older brother of Wild Nikotl from a previous set that needed it was a green creature that needed a mountain or plains, and it would get +1 for each of the plains or the mountain. And so this guy's
Isn't the Shoba Brawler giving you Jewel Thief flashbacks? Like same power level type things?
Infinitely better than Jewel Thief.
It's pretty up there. It's pretty costed well. I mean, the times I've played this, it's always been a 3/3 attacking on turn 2 or attacking on turn 3. You play your extra land there, or even I've seen it go up to 5.
I've gotten this to 5/3 on 2 on 3 all the time. Like the first attack is always like a 5/3 attack from him. Yeah.
Have you guys went Brawler into the 3/2 haste if you kick with a red yet?
No.
That would just be an insane line. I'm just so excited to do it.
Yeah. All right. So for my uncommon top 3, I obviously have the Brawler. He's a fucking beating. Like he's scary, super scary. Even late game when you draw him is good. Next I have Rona's Vortex, which I didn't realize how good it was until I actually played it. It's super good. I think it's one of the best removal spells in this format.
Well, all you have to do is wear a mask, right? And you won't get sucked into Rona's Vortex.
Yep, scary. Super good. My third uncommon is the Weather Seed Treaty. This card is an absolute beating. This card is hella scary. And whenever I first was evaluating this, one thing I wasn't paying too much attention to was the last line of text. The last mode on it is super good. Especially if you're going through, start at the first one. You're gonna have 5 domain. And then giving a free Gaiasmite with trample is game winning. It's gross. I'm way up on this card.
Yeah, Weather Seed Treaty's super good.
Yeah, when I see that Weather Seed Treaty, the first thing I do when I'm playing against it is look into my hand and see if I have a removal spell, just to make sure that I can get past that 3rd chapter of this thing. How good has Rita Head been? Have you ever read it? What do you feel about that?
I've never been in a situation where I've had to do it.
Okay.
But sometimes you just play this as a Gaiasmite, right? I could imagine where you would just play this as Gaiasmite for 3 mana, which is fine. If you top deck this and you just Gaiasmite for 3 mana, that's totally amazing too. Because it gives trample.
But read ahead in general, I'm super high on, right?
Yeah, it's just
I've really liked the flexibility that it's given me on some of the other read ahead cards. This card, the Weather Seed Treaty, has been kind of a tough one for me because I feel like you want to go more control with it, but then that last ability is so aggro. You have 2 kind of control-ish abilities there on 1 and 2, especially, which is getting a 1/1 on 3. And then, man, I don't know.
All you need is a body. And it gives you the body to do it. You get the 6/6 for free. You get 1 turn of a 6/6 trampler. Like, you get the body too. Like, you don't even need creatures in your deck to make this okay. Like,
How scared would you be if they went Neoshoba Brawler into Weatherseed Treaty on 3?
yeah, you're dead. You're dying. Like, for sure. Because they're at 5 domain already. like,
It's just a lot.
They
Yeah,
have one top land, for sure at 5 domain. You're taking 5 damage that turn. They're getting the 1/1. Yeah.
You're playing something random.
Then they're playing a 10/10 next turn.
Or
Right,
or they're doming you in the face for 5 with the
for
reach
5,
guy.
yeah.
Oh my god.
All right. For my top 3 uncommons, I have Knight of Dawn's Light. It's the one cost in white for a 2/2 human knight first strike. If you would gain that much life, if you would gain life, you gain 1+ more. And then it has night breathing, I guess. So I could say 1 colorless and a white, and Knight of Dawn's Light gets a +1/+1 until the end of turn. I found this card to be pretty good. It's just been a threat. It takes care of all those early aggro creatures. You can wall up behind it, or you can just start attacking with this thing, and it's a real threat every time. The first strike is very relevant in this set as well. My next card is Neshoba Brawler. We've said enough about this guy. He is just one of the you just don't want to see this guy if you're facing down an opponent on him to drop that or them to drop that on turn 2. It's a real beating. And my last card up is Elias Vilcor, the Sadistic Pilgrim. This card is just a Swiss Army knife. You play it on 2, you play it later. The death touch is relevant at all times of the game for that low of cost. It's just been good. It's been a mirror breaker in certain matches. And so I've really come to like that card. I've actually first picked it in my draft one time.
Right. Yeah. What about the Black Menace Knight? Is it up there?
It's not as good as the other one, but I think it's
better.
Better?
Oh, that's a super hot take.
That's a hot take. That is not true.
It's got higher stats on 17 lands.
Wow.
Yeah, because I think my reasoning for why the black one's better than the white one is because it's better to have more swamps in your deck than it is to have more plains.
Probably, yeah. You probably just want to splash
like, because you were saying earlier that you just want to splash white. So you're not getting this guy that big, but if you're playing like black, you're already playing a lot more swamps to like make your extinguish the lights go off. Like I think I like the black one better.
Oh,
like, you're getting them way bigger.
Yeah. We forgot to do our disclaimer about Wingmantle Chaplain. We are all in agreement that the O3 defender that makes birds is busted. That's all of our number ones.
Actually, is that Andrew's number one?
Yeah, that's a good point. Andrew's pretty still a skeptic.
I'm a skeptic of it just because I feel like you need to build around it. If you're building around it, obviously, then that's the way to go. You know, if you're really trying to maximize your value on that, I think that's true for every single card, though. I don't think so. I don't think I need to build around Knight of Dawn's Light. I think it's just good on its own.
Do. Like,
it's a
this
2/2
isn't
first
good
striker.
Off of splash. Would you splash that?
It's still a 3/3 first striker on its own merit just by casting it.
Yeah, just casting it, right? But
yeah, just by having. I mean, by the nature of casting it, you don't even need to. I think the 3/3 first striker is good enough.
I like this card a lot. I get beaten down by this thing.
Yeah, it'll actually win in a brawl against the Neshoba Brawler. Like it just blanks so many cards in this set. It blanks. It even actually blanks my 2 and 3 in this set just by it existing.
The Neshoba Brawler beats it, first off. And I'm going to tell you why, okay? If it sits back and waits for the Neshoba Brawler to attack, then the domain deck's going to beat that deck. Yeah. If it attacks, then the Neshoba Brawler hits harder for cheaper. So in the scenario where you Knight of Dawn's Light, I Neshoba Brawler, either you're going to stall and play defense, which I'm fine with, or you're going to attack me and pump or not pump and hit me for 2, which I'm also fine with. Like, I would take Neshoba Brawler over Knight every time.
I would too. The upside's just there for me.
Yeah, I think in a 1-to-1 brawl, I mean, obviously the Knight wins over that. I mean, just in general, right?
Well, the Knight has to sit back and block it, right? If the Knight's aggressive, then the mana trade is too much. So if we each had one card in our deck, you had the Knight and I had the Brawler, you'd probably win.
Yeah.
But in general, if you're swinging with the Knight and getting 2 damage in, and then I'm cracking back for 5, you're losing. If you're holding the Knight back because you're to hold back my Brawler, and I'm in the domain deck, you're also losing. You know what I mean?
How so?
Because the Knight is an aggressive card for an aggressive deck, and the Brawler is a card that's going to go into a generally more slower paced
it's just a random aggressive card in like a really
slow deck. Yeah.
Yeah, like
I still don't get where the Neshoba Brawler gets past the Knight, though. Even
because like if you're gonna attack with it, I get what Ryan said.
Like if you're playing your Knight as a defender because I have a Neshoba Brawler, then I'm gonna beat you because my top end domain deck is better than your top end white deck. I don't care what you have in your deck. The top end of my domain deck is gonna beat if this goes to turn 20, I'm gonna win no matter what, almost.
just because the cards around it.
Just because,
Oh,
because
okay.
I'm in the domain deck and you're in the white deck.
Well, there's no mono white deck. I mean, you're putting
I
all
mean,
the
like
other cards against versus a mono white deck.
The white
No,
decks are pretty
it's not a fair
aggressive,
fight.
Pretty much any white archetype besides domain. Like if you're also in the domain deck, then sure. But then you also have the brawler. Like if you're in white red go wide, I'm not super scared. If you're going to sit back with the Knight and wait. If you're in the white black, which is also basically go wide, I'm not scared if you're going to sit back with the Knight. If you're in white blue flyers and you want to sit back with the Knight, I'm still not scared. Like I'm going to get past those decks later, I guess.
White blue might be like the only.
I think white blue will get past you flying in the air, though, right? I don't know. This is all
I'm
mental
playing-
magic.
got
at
like
that point.
4/4 reachers.
Yeah, I got 4/4 reachers at 4 and 5.
I dome you for 5.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you get to play,
Like-
you get to play Citizens
all
of
I'm
Rest,
saying
you're gaining
is,
life.
If I play the Knight, if you play the Knight and I play the Brawler, are you attacking with the Knight or are you just holding it back to block the Brawler?
I can hold it back. I could do both, actually. As the time goes on, the Knight will outpace the Neshoba Brawler. The ceiling on the Neshoba Brawler is a 5/3, right?
Sure.
Okay, and the ceiling on Knight of Dawn's Light is however many white lands plus any. It's probably 10 in a deck or something like that. You probably at least so your Knight goes to a 12/12 first striker. The ceiling on the Knight has no ceiling. The Neshoba Brawler can maximum be 5/3 trample.
Yeah.
There's no
The
ceiling on
the Knight is very limited. So if you play the Knight on 2 and I play the Brawler on 3 or on 2, like it doesn't matter who's on the play. Are you going to play a 3-drop?
I don't need to, I guess, right?
So you're not going to play anything. So I'm going to play a 3-drop. Are you going to play a 4-drop?
Yeah, I can play a 4-drop.
Okay, then I'm
You
going to
play
play
another
another 5/3.
Yeah, you play a 2-drop. You play a 2-drop. I mean, what's your fourth? Or actually, no, I will play a 3-drop because I'm in white. I'll play Citizens Arrest. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're
exactly.
going to kill me to show
what's the deal?
Boba Brawler or something else.
Yeah,
That's
I
fine.
mean, it's just like what's the deal there? I don't see the Neshoba Brawler being in a vacuum better than the Knight. It's just the cards around it, whatever.
The Knight
obviously,
requires
Yeah,
a
it's not
maintenance.
better in a vacuum.
The Knight
better
requires
in
a maintenance. It's better in the format. It's just better in the format.
Yeah.
It's not a vacuum, right?
I think
Yeah.
Knight of Dawn's Light, it's a very specific kind of card for certain things. Obviously, the Brawler is a little bit more flexible just because it doesn't have a mana requirement to it. But I think the Knight is just, if I'm facing one of those down, I think the Knight's a little scarier just because of the pump effect to it. The one life is kind of incidental too, which is kind of interesting. That's actually come up kind of big, especially when you team it with the Sadistic Pilgrim and you're getting 2 life a turn for each creature you got.
I mean, I think the Knight's super good. Like, don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very high on the Knight. I just think the statement that Knight beats Brawler is a little bit mistaken because you have to either save your mana up and sit back and wait, which is exactly what I want you to do if I'm playing Brawlers because I'm in the domain deck, or you can swing and hit me for 2 and then I'm just going to crack back for 5 without investing any mana into it. You know what I mean?
I mean, these are two different. It's a 2 different play style there, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Like, the one begats the other play style. Obviously, I'm not going to attack with the Knight if I have nothing in my hand. The Knight just stays back, keeps the Brawler at bay until I got something in my hand. Then I'm attacking with it. Then you can't block. You can't even block the Knight. You got to take it.
Right. Yeah. You
Like,
can't
so
block
now
the
I'm just-
Knight.
Yeah, now I'm just getting in 2 free damage while playing other spells at a certain point of the game too. I've attacked with all mana open. I get to play my spells afterwards.
If you have 4 mana open and I have 4 mana open and I swing at you with the Brawler into the Knight, do you still block?
Yeah, of course.
Like, obviously, I can see that your thing has first strike. Like, you're not playing around Gaia's Might whatsoever.
You're not playing around an indestructible spell. It's
That's
the same
true.
thing. Yeah.
That's true.
The indestructible spell will just get there because then I gain extra life on that too.
Yeah.
And I get a
but
plus
you
1/1
take a
on it.
shit ton of damage, right?
I
This
mean,
thing has
it's like an
No.
even. Yeah, it's an even.
No, I actually
No.
gain the life before it too.
If he hits you,
The maximum on a guy's might is
How
maximum
big-
is 10.
yeah, so
He
it'll
would
be a
gain.
10 there?
He would gain 4. He would gain 5 life, and I would hit him for 10. So it
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So he'd take 5 still, right?
I'd take 5. Let's see. 1, 2.
You take 5, but you gain
assuming that I don't pump,
you'd take one. You'd take one because you'd
Yeah.
pump once in the scenario that we're at 4,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
you'd put the counter on them.
Yep.
The knight is super scary once you
Yeah.
start putting counters on it too.
I think
Counters
that
are just insane.
I'd be happy to have both of these in my deck for all that
Oh,
matters.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
For
geez, I
sure.
think these are both good creatures, and I'm not ashamed to put any one of them. They're in my top 5. Of like these are making the cut of my deck every time. I
Yeah.
start with these guys out when I start building my deck. These guys are first chair, first picks. I mean, they're just in there. So
Yeah,
I
we're
don't think
super splitting hairs. Like if my tier list went to 5, it would have Knight of the Dawnlight in it.
Alrighty.
All right,
All
next
right.
up, we're doing our favorite archetypes so far. Take this with a grain of salt. We're only like a week into the format, right? Like we don't really know what our favorite archetypes are going to end up being, but
Yeah, this is just what we're looking forward to try
this
to
is
draft,
what we're
right?
doing right now. This is what I'm doing right now, anyways, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so my favorite archetype right now is Demir Wall Control, and it's just a pile. And basically, my strategy has been just take all the removal and the premium walls. Like you take the premium walls first, like specifically Coral Colony, Blight Pile, Wing Mantle Chaplain. I don't think you like take the Bulwark that high. You try to table him too. Those are your like first picks, not first picks, but
Highest
like
priority.
yeah, highest priority. And then you just take removal, all of it. Like anything you can get. Genuinely, I say Demir, but like you play every color if you have to, if you find it. If you find like a couple lightning strikes, you take them. Then you prioritize your fixing, and then you get all your walls on the wheels. Specifically the Shield Wall Sentinel, which finds your good walls, and then you just have a pile of removal. And sometimes you even end up playing like Tolarian Terror, because you've got a pile of removal that's fueling and making them cheaper. But that's been working pretty decently for me. But yeah, I think this is going to be a reliable strat that doesn't have like the all-in kind of wall thing, where it's more just like you just have a removal pile with some top end like a terror, or sometimes you get a couple Academy Drakes and you just win off those. But super long games, super fun to play. Coral Colony mills people out pretty decently. You'll play like Urborg repossessions, whatever you can get.
How many games have you finished with Coral Colony?
Quite a few. Like altogether, like a mass sum, probably like
Yeah,
50.
like is it like a legit finisher? Like is it the
It's
real
a
deal?
legit finisher. Like I've played this deck with no Wing Mantle Chaplains, no Blight Piles, you just have Coral Colonies. You can literally win off that.
And it's good.
One of the other things to look out for too, if you're like the hardcore Demir fucking Coral Colony deck, you can play the 2 mana. This is real deep sketchiness, but you can play the 2 mana Saga that mills for 4.
Mhm.
You can
Oh yeah,
target your opponent too.
Yeah.
Like,
that's funny.
which is that's like the bottom of the barrel, most probably like worst case use for that. But sometimes I've won games doing that. Coral Colony is pretty good, especially if you get like Urborg repossessions to bring them back. But most of the time you don't have to worry about it dying because people aren't that afraid of it.
Until it's too late.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's my favorite archetype so far.
My favorite archetype thus far has been Golgari graveyard strategies. Something that we've seen in this set is there's just not a lot of graveyard removal here, and so I put, like, you can see all these black cards here. We've got the Urborg repossession at common, you've got Braid's frightful return at uncommon, and you've got Bortuk Bone Rattle, who has just been an all-star in sealed. I mean, that guy was just a beating, and I didn't give him enough respect until I had to tie a matchup because the game just got so bogged down. He was able to start bringing back multiple creatures with that, just by bringing it back from the graveyard with Urborg or Braids or any of the other kind of regrowth effects. And so we see that Golgari portion of it just because we see a lot of the green kind of tagged onto that. And then really you kind of splash into some other things. You can do blue, white, red, even, just for whatever value creatures there are. If there's some sort of bomb that you need to regrow that's just going to be good, put it in this kind of deck. It's really grindy. I've actually grinded out Demir and Grixis decks with this deck, just getting all the 2-for-1s with it. And there's just really no punishment for it to go this kind of strategy.
When you play this deck, are you playing straight green black?
I played a straight. I splashed into blue when I played this in a live paper game, and it was pretty good. Just out carding people. There's so many creatures that are 2-for-1s in this set. We've kind of talked about the power level of this set being a little bit higher, and I feel with all the 2-for-1s, you actually start getting more cards than would you then like draw 2 cards, or search for this kind of stuff. You're getting all that extra value there.
Do you think the power level of this set's higher than New Capenna?
Yeah.
I think it's more evened out than New Capenna. It's the load is kind of spread out more evenly. I think it's evenly distributed as far as the power level. New Capenna, I felt like was a little bit more focused in the white, blue, green. That Brokers Guild. I felt when you got that deck.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I just felt that when you had that Brokers Guild going and you got that deck, it was pretty hard to get past those kind of cards.
I felt like it was also distributed earlier in the curve in New Capenna too.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
The power was in those 3 colors and earlier in the curve than it is in this format.
Yeah.
How much does the Golgari graveyard deck care about domain?
It's kind of light. I put in just for the color splashes. Like if I had the Vine Shaper, I put in the blue for it, and that's kind of where this.
You wouldn't pay extra for the Bone Rattler for Bone Rattle?
At 3, I think, or I was at with this, I ended up doing like a Sultai, and so I had blue there, and I didn't have any off-color duels. I wanted to make sure to have my mana base like pretty solid for this, and it did kind of pay off in that kind of way. Even just regrowing a 6-drop with this guy was really good. I regrew the 4/4 flyer, the blue flyer with that, the double blue, and I thought it was just good. It was a lot of payoffs there just for doubling up on spells or getting things back and start grinding out.
What are some like signs that you should move into this deck in a draft besides like these premium uncommons?
I think a sign is these premium uncommons. The common, obviously, the Erdborg Repossession is fairly good, and obviously it's really good in this deck. Actually, you just always kick that thing. I think just if you're drafting all these 2-for-1 value creatures or creatures that do things when they come into play, you just start accruing value over the course of the game. Get some light removal there in the deck. In that Sultai deck, I actually only had 2 pieces of removal, and the games really didn't feel that close. I was able just to kind of power through and just grind them out just by aggressive trading. You really put them to the test, and then you're able to regrow like a Phyrexian Rager, and just drawing extra cards for regrowing a creature. So the value on that's very high.
Makes sense. You definitely wrecked us with it.
You ever play red in this deck?
I think you could. I think it's really that base Golgari, and then you really try to figure out where your best value is, or if you have
try to put creatures in your graveyard without like just trading them. Like, do you ever like actively try to do that? Is there ever like a turbo version of this deck?
I don't think the payoff's good enough, because I don't think there's a strict like reanimator spell. The one that we have in the uncommon slot is probably one of the worst zombifies I've ever seen.
It kills you.
It kills you, and that's not exactly what. You don't want to be doing that, and I don't think kicking it is going to be tough. I think white might be fun with this too, because there's a really strong uncommon. It's a 2/3 that has kicker for black and 1, and it really goes along with this strategy as well. Just knowing that you can mess around with your graveyard without any sort of removal for it. Yeah, with no interference is very strong. Even my opponent that I had actually remarked about that and just saying, wow, you've really exploited a strategy here. And they look in their sideboard and realize that there's nothing they can do for that. And so they're in this grindy game where you're really just, if you can just survive long enough, you just eventually win. You get them down to where they have no cards, almost no board, and your board's 7 creatures deep.
All right, let's get into the aggro deck of the format. You guys ready for this? Is it aggro? It's disgusting. I've done it. Your curve stops at 3. The biggest guy that you want is the Balmor Battle Mage Captain. He's the blue-red 1/3 flyer that whenever you cast an instant sorcery, all your stuff gets +1/+0 and trample. If you see him and the 1/2 dwarf uncommon, that's your sign to move in. And we're taking bargain cards that no one else seems to want in this deck a lot. We like the G2 amplifiers. We like the haunting figments as our bodies. Most of our creatures are costing 2, and it's just that simple. Then we want every single instant and sorcery that either kill something or let you draw a card. That's about it. Tolarian Geyser, MP Momentum is on the fringe there. It kind of kills something because they're going to be dead before they untap it. But yeah, we're just going captains, dwarfs, uncommon. Then we're going removal and those 2 drops, the amplifier, and then the haunting figment, the 2 on vigilance. They can't be blocked as long as you cast an instant or sorcery spell. All together with, instants and sorceries that you can really do on your turn. So there's a lot of instants and stuff that people will play that are best on the opponent's turn, but we want stuff that we can do on their turn. Phyrexian Espionage, drawing 2 cards and having 2 unblockables hit is just good. Impede Momentum, tapping something down, and then swinging with your dudes is good. The curve just stops at 3. You play 14 to 15 lands with a couple of those Scry lands, and it just gets in there.
You want Micromancer in this deck too, right? So?
Yeah, it's fine. You can put it in there. If I could pick my deck, I don't know if I'd include it. It costs 4.
Right.
It's expensive.
Yeah,
I've
but
really
it
kind of
like a spell, right?
Yeah, it's good. It's definitely good. I don't think I would cut it, but I do think like if I was if I could, if I made a deck on Magic Arena that was just this archetype with this format only, like a block constructed or whatever, set constructed. I don't know if Micromancer would make the cut.
Is Amplifier good? The Getsu Amplifier good without the kicker? Like, do you often play it as just a 2-1 on 2?
Yeah, in this deck, yeah,
In this deck,
absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. Because I'm going Amplifier into Captain and then Flowstone Infusion killing their thing and getting in for 4. And then the next turn, I'm hopefully playing another 2-drop and tapping down their thing, or 2 more 2-drops. And then the turn after that, I'm just getting in for a ton.
Yeah, Getsu Amplifier is really good with Twin Inferno, like, which is stupid. Like, there's dumb Twin Inferno decks that will like hit you for like 10 on turn 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of dumb stuff you can
On
do with
turn
this
3,
deck. Yeah, lots of dumb stuff,
super dumb. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
but
So
it's fun.
What ratio of creatures to spells do you think you want to have? So like
Close to half and half, maybe slightly leaning towards the spells. You want your creatures to matter, but if they don't matter, you need them to be 2-drops. Like you want your creatures to be some way related. Like if you cast an instant sorcery, you get some benefit, right? So, the Figment, the Amplifier, the Captain, the 1/2, all that. But if they don't match that, I think you want them to be 2-drops, because then they still get in when you impede Momentum or Tolarian Geyser or all that, and they still get the buff from the Captain. So the Captain's obviously better the more creatures and spells you have, so you have to have both. So it's right there around that half and half range.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I only drafted this once, really, the way I wanted to do it, and I'm still learning it, but it's gonna be disgusting once I have it figured out. All right, next up we have the Jank Bank. These are cards that we don't think we're gonna play anymore in this format. They're just jank cards, and we think they're bad.
I got this wrong. I did this wrong. I picked cards that were like theory crafting around that are super bad, but we think we can make good. that was my interpretation of it. So I've got one like that.
Okay, you can do that. That's fine. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, for my first Jank Bank card of this series, I'm at Twin Inferno. I haven't seen it played. I haven't really seen it played against me, and I just don't know where it fits in. It seems like just a win more for these things, and it's really begging to just get some premium removal on those guys. There's enough instants in removal here that just make this thing kind of almost unplayable in a way. I like the idea of copying a spell, but again, you have to have the spell in your hand. I like the idea of double striking, but you got to have a creature on board, and I just don't think it does enough.
Yeah, I don't think it's super good. It can be very good in some decks. I will say in my sealed pre-release deck that I did 3-0, by the way. I Twin Inferno to Captain's Call and made 6/1/1s, and that was kind of disgusting.
No, this card's good, Andrew. Like, I've died to this at least like 5 or 6 times. Just like not like there's situations that this card can make that just like you can't really deal with.
Like, is this card always making the deck? I feel like it just doesn't. I feel like it's always one of the ones that's cut.
If you have enough Get-To Lavamancers or Get-To Lava Runners or whatever, that's like what wants it, the Amplifier. Or even Battle Mage Captain too. Right?
I think I'm with Andrew, though. I don't think this is making the cut in every red deck. I think it's got to be kind of...
Yeah, not in every red deck, right? But like red-blue wants this.
Yeah. I think I'm happy when my opponents have this in their deck, and I just 2-for-1 them with it and make them look real bad, for playing cards like this. Or even
this card can pop off, for sure.
I think it's one of those cards where people have really high hopes for it, and then when it pays off one time, you remember the one time it paid off, but forget the 4 times it didn't work.
Yeah.
All
Yep.
right. Next up, I just put a completely unplayable card, and this is one that I was kind of wrong about on the little set review.
I accept your apology, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm wrong. It's Benali's Faith Bonder. It's a colorless and a white for a 1/3 vigilance within list. For some reason, I thought you could swing with this guy and enlist something onto him, and then use him to enlist something else. Like I thought you could chain and enlist.
You call this jewel thief, Ryan?
Yeah, that was actually Neoshoba Brawler. I was super wrong. This card is a 3/2 maybe. Like when you put this in your deck, you're like, well, I guess I'm not winning very many games. Kind of sad about it. It's just bad.
I actually won a few games with this card.
I don't actually hate it as much. Like, it's not amazing, but like you could just like send them in for 5 every once in a while.
It was definitely one of the last 20 in my, there were 20 other cards ahead of this, and I was looking at my curve and I knew I just needed another creature there. And somebody actually used a removal spell against it, which surprised the heck out of me, but apparently it was an aggro on aggro match, and this guy just did a lot of work in there. Guys that I would never block with, I just enlisted into it, pushed in a little damage, and then they still couldn't get past the 3 toughness, with their 2/2s, which there seem to be a lot of bears in this set. But I do agree, it's not the card I'm looking for the most,
Yeah. I can see you pulling it in out of the board sometimes, but main deck it would be.
To me, he's just a suicide bomber. You just send him in once. He's gonna die, but like you're trading. He's like a really, really bad removal spell.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you got, Robi?
Okay. So my jank card that I think somebody can do something with is Relic of Legends. Okay. And I think somewhere out there in the world, there's somebody who's like getting like 3 or 4 of these and just taking every single random 2-drop legendary creature and then just using them as mana dorks to get the 7 mana, like you gain 5 life, big trample guy. I see a deck where that could happen. Because, like, I've played one deck with this, and the fact that you can just tap untapped legendary creatures to make mana is really stupid. So I think if you could get, like, a critical mass of random legendary 2-drops, I think you could ramp hella fast. Like, and, like, it's not even, like, they don't even have summoning sickness. So you're going, like, turn 3, you play this. You play a random legendary on 2. Turn 3, you play this, tap it, tap your other guy. Like there's so much like weird mana math where you could get to like turn 7 on turn 4.
Hey Robi, how did you do?
I think it could be a thing. I did terrible.
Did you?
I did terrible, but I lost to the night. But I think in a world, I think it's possible to do this. I think somebody out there can do this.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can. I think this is what you're doing when you first pick the Wooberg guy, right? Like,
yeah, I tried. It was terrible. I like popped off too. I played like 4 guys the next turn, and then I just died to the night.
I think the problem is all those legendary creatures that we're talking about are so focused to what they're supposed to be doing in their little wedges that it's very hard to get them to synergize with each other. And so this is kind of
there would be no synergy.
Yeah,
like that's the way where I think this card would shine. And like you just use them as mana dorks.
Yeah. I think in like a 3-color deck, this might actually be pretty decent, getting that extra bit of mana there that they normally don't see. It's kind of funny. I wonder if you just like accidentally get them, you tap this thing down, people just forget that you can tap an untapped legendary creature with it, and you hit them with like a counter spell or something.
Right? Like,
I've already been got by it. I've already been got by it. Yeah. Fool me once type situation, but he had the guy that can pump all of his dudes for 5 and one of these out and 3 mana.
Ooh.
And so I was like, so he's got 4. But he had the Ilkor guy too, the white-black guy.
Yeah.
So he just, swung with like an enlister. It was like a 5/2. It was like, obviously I'm going to block that with my 2/2. And then he just pumped everything. Like he just pumped it. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. Well, have to keep an eye out for that from now on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some uses for this, some weird like some real unintentional uses for this that you weren't supposed to do.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have our alpha of the week. And this week, that's Andrew. I think he went 201 in the sealed, pretty good. But then we did 2 in-house drafts with 8 people, and he won them both. So he knows what he's doing, and this is his time to shine. This is the opportunity for him to talk about whatever he wants to talk about. Here we go.
Well, thank you, Ryan, for that wonderful introduction. I really appreciate being the first alpha of the week here.
Don't get used to it, bro.
Don't get used to it. Oh,